In a world where only the strongest survive, a young woman is thrown into the deadliest challenge of her life. Welcome to Basgiath War College, where dragons rule and weakness means death. This is Fourth Wing. Violet Sorrengail never expected to be here. At 20 years old, she had spent her life preparing for the Scribe Quadrant, a quiet, studious future filled with books, maps, and knowledge. But fate had other plans. Or rather, her mother did. General Violet Sorrengail, the most feared commander of Navarre's army, made the decision for her. Violet would not be a scribe. She would become a dragon rider or die trying. There was no room for argument. No time to protest. Only the brutal reality that, ready or not, Violet was now part of the deadliest quadrant in Basgiath War College. Her sister Mira, a seasoned rider herself, didn't hide her concern. She had spent years protecting Violet, and she knew better than anyone that the Riders Quadrant wasn't designed for someone like her. "This isn't like the scribes, Vi," Mira had warned. "You're smaller, weaker than the others. People will come for you, and the dragons, they don't tolerate frailty." But it didn't matter. Violet's path was set, and there was only one way forward. The first test wasn't a lesson, it wasn't an introduction. It was a death sentence for the unprepared. A long, slick stone bridge connecting the outer wards to the Riders Quadrant. No railings, no safety nets, only the abyss below, where one misstep meant instant death. Violet stood at the edge, heart pounding, watching as cadets ahead of her attempted the crossing. Some made it, barely, their arms windmilling for balance. Others, they slipped, screamed, fell. Their bodies disappeared into the fog, swallowed by the canyon beneath. Her turn came faster than she was ready for. Beneath her boots, the stone was uneven, worn down by years of footfalls and countless deaths. The wind howled, threatening to push her off balance, but she took a deep breath and started forward. Her legs shook, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. Halfway across, another cadet ahead of her panicked, losing his footing. He grabbed at her arm, desperate to keep from falling. In that moment, Violet had two choices: try to save him and risk both of them falling, or let go. She let go. The scream echoed, but Violet didn't look down. One final step, and she was across. She had survived the first test. But survival was a temporary privilege. Basgiath didn't waste time. The moment she stepped inside, she became a target. Cadets didn't see her as competition. They saw her as prey. Dane Atos, her childhood best friend, was now a second-year rider. He was furious to see her there, convinced she wouldn't last. He tried to convince her to leave, but Violet knew the truth. Leaving wasn't an option. The only way out of the Riders Quadrant was death. Then there was Xaden Riorson. The son of a traitor, marked with the black tattoos of rebellion, Xaden was a powerful, dangerous third-year cadet. He had every reason to hate her. After all, her mother had been the one to execute his father during the rebellion, and by the look in his eyes, he hadn't forgotten. "Watch your back, Sorrengail," he warned. But in Basgiath, there was no such thing as safety. Violet Sorrengail survived the Parapet, but in Basgiath War College, survival is only temporary. The real test? Staying alive long enough to bond with a dragon. And in a place where strength is everything, being small and fragile makes her the perfect target. The Riders Quadrant doesn't wait for you to adjust. There is no easing in, no time to breathe. The second Violet steps into her training, she realizes exactly what her sister warned her about. There are no safety nets, no second chances. Every lesson is a battlefield. Combat training begins immediately, and it's brutal. She's pitted against stronger, faster cadets who see her as nothing more than dead weight. Jack Barlow, the same cadet who tried to kill her on the parapet, is still hunting her. And he's not the only one. Riders believe in weeding out the weak before threshing, the sacred ceremony where dragons choose their riders. Those who aren't strong enough won't make it that far. And if they do, the dragons will make sure they never leave the field alive. Violet isn't a fighter, but she's not stupid. She knows she can't overpower her opponents, so she does what she does best. She outthinks them. Instead of brute force, she uses agility. Instead of meeting strength with strength, she learns to dodge, to anticipate, to use her opponent's size against them. It's slow, it's painful, but it's working. And she has allies. Rhiannon, sharp and skilled. Redoc, quick with a joke, but deadly in a fight. And Sawyer, a brilliant strategist. Together, they make a pact. If they can't be the strongest, they'll be the smartest. Because the next challenge, it's one that will change everything. Before any cadet is allowed to bond with a dragon, they must prove they are worthy. The gauntlet is designed to do just that. It's a grueling obstacle course that tests strength, endurance, and agility. Wooden beams, rotating platforms, a deadly vertical climb. One mistake and the ground will break bones. Or worse. Cadets run it every day, and every day people fail. For Violet, it's a nightmare. Her body isn't built for this. Her muscles burn, her lungs scream for air, but she doesn't quit. She watches, she studies. Instead of relying on brute force, she memorizes the pattern of the moving beams. She times her jumps perfectly. She learns how to move in a way that conserves energy instead of wasting it. Slowly, painfully, she improves. And when she finally conquers the gauntlet, she's one step closer to Threshing. But not everyone wants her to get there. One night, as Violet returns to her barracks, she realizes she's being followed. Jack Barlow, he isn't just here to intimidate her, he's here to eliminate her. Because in Basgiath, there are no rules against murder. Violet is smaller, weaker, and unarmed. Jack is faster, stronger, and he's done this before. The fight is brutal. She barely manages to dodge his blows, her ribs aching, her body screaming for relief. Then she sees her opening. Using his own momentum against him, she drives a dagger into his ribs. Jack goes down, gasping, bleeding out at her feet. Her hands are shaking, her heart is pounding. But she's still alive. And in the Riders Quadrant, that's the only thing that matters. Finally, the moment that determines the future of every cadet arrives. The sacred ceremony where dragons descend from the mountains to choose their riders. Or in many cases, to burn them alive. Dragons do not bond with the weak. If a cadet approaches and is deemed unworthy, they will be incinerated on the spot. Cadets wait in tense silence as the dragons make their selections. Some are bonded immediately, others are rejected permanently. And then it's Violet's turn. Every dragon in the field ignores her. They pass her by, not even sparing her a glance. She knew this would happen. She isn't strong enough, isn't fast enough. A golden baby dragon, barely the size of a horse, is being attacked by another cadet. Without thinking, Violet throws herself into the fight, shielding the small dragon with her body. And then a shadow looms over her. The largest, most powerful black dragon in Basgiath, Tairn. He lands in front of her, his massive golden eyes locking onto hers. And then, in a moment that defies every rule, every tradition, he bonds with her. And so does the baby dragon. Violet isn't just bonded to a dragon. She's bonded to two. The moment her bond is formed, everything changes. Dragons do not bond with the weak, and yet the most powerful dragon of them all chose her. The other cadets don't see this as a victory. They see it as a mistake, an insult. And Xaden Riorson, the most dangerous rider in the quadrant, he's watching her now, closely. Because Violet Sorrengail isn't just a fragile girl anymore. She's the most unexpected, most impossible rider in Basgiath history. And for better or worse, everyone wants to know why. From the weakest cadet to the most extraordinary dragon bond in history, Violet's journey is just beginning. But now that she has her dragons, the real question remains, what is she capable of? And who will try to stop her before she finds out? Stay tuned for the next breakdown where we uncover the power Violet never expected to have and the danger that's waiting just around the corner.